So welcome to part 2, where I rank every serious England contender by form based on what I've seen in the Gallagher Premiership. I watched every minute of the 4 rounds. These are my subjective views. I'd love to know what yours would be. And by default, we're going to end up with the form England team. That's not necessarily the England team, the England squad that I would pick, but I think it's the team on form. So if you want to look at the forwards, that's the first video. Please do go and have a look at that now or at the end. This is the one where we look at the backs. So starting with scrum half, and on there we can see that Alex Mitchell is there as an asterisk. He's injured, but of course he's going to come into the picture. So that's just to remind me, maybe yourselves as well, that he could well be back for the November. But there's only 4 that I consider that are playing right now that are of the standard and that I've ranked here. Number 4 is Will Porter. I think he's really close to number 3, Jack van Poortvliet. Both very different players. Will Porter, that little bit quicker, that little bit nippier. Jack van Poortvliet, maybe a bit bigger, bit better kicker. Depends what sort of player you want. Obviously, they play the styles that their team plays as well. They probably could play in a different way, but I think they're doing incredibly well. And number 2 is Ben Spencer. Again, a very different sort of player, probably the best kicker in the Premiership. He's a controller. Sure, he can score some tries, but he's very steady. He makes sensible decisions. For me, for England, I see him as a starter, or maybe nothing, to be honest, because I think he has to be the man. That's my view. And then without Alex Mitchell playing, number 1, quite clearly, is Harry Randall. He is just phenomenal. We've actually seen in the last 2 rounds some of that box kicking that we needed to see, that Steve Borthwick needed to see. And of course, he plays the ball away from the ruck faster than any player in the Premiership, because that's how Bristol play. His running game's amazing. His opportunism is unbelievable. Spotting tries from absolutely nothing. He is my number 1 ranked form scrum half. On to fly half. At number 5 is Exeter's Harvey Skinner. He's a bit rangy, he's quick, he's strong, he's creative, doesn't goal kick, which maybe brings him down a little bit, but I think he could step up to international. He has actually said himself that he really wants to do it, so I think he's in the picture there. A little bit higher up, I think, is Saracens' Fergus Burke, probably because he's playing for a team that's playing a bit better. I've been trying to work out Burke for a while now, and really he does a bit of everything. He's very creative, he's very jinky, he's a good ball runner himself. His kicking's pretty decent. He's an all-rounder, but playing in that kind of New Zealand style where he really looks to attack. I like him a lot. I think I'm growing towards him. He's at number 4 at the moment. At 3 is Finn Smith. We know Northampton are struggling to get their attack going. He's still doing his bits and pieces really well. His crossfield kicks are outstanding. He puts the team around the pitch. He's not really making breaks himself, but that's not his game. Goal kicking looks pretty solid. In at number 3. At number 2, I think it's George Ford. He could well have been number 1 if he hadn't got injured. That's the asterisk by his name. Hopefully he'll be back for the November internationals, but that's why he's still at number 2. And number 1 is Marcus Smith. Occasionally makes a few errors, but goodness me, this guy creates like no one else. Unbelievable side step. We know he's quick. We know he can fill in at 15. But if you want to make something from nothing or make a half break, he is your man. So he is number 1. Now on to inside centre, which is a problem area for England. In fact, centre full stop is a problem area. And I wanted to put in lots of players that I thought were genuine 12s, as well as Ollie Lawrence. He's going to be in there. And number 6 is Dan Kelly. I think he could play 12 and 13. A real distributor, a good all-rounder. Can I see world class in this game? Not sure, but he's very, very tidy. He's there at 6. If you want a really good coordinating, organising player, Fraser Dingwall is your man. Again, is he peak power? Probably not. Is he peak speed? Probably not, but he's not going to do a lot wrong. Number 5. At number 4, a bit of a dark horse, young Joe Woodward. I think he's got the balance between creativity and power. He made an amazing interception in the last round. I think he's really coming up on the rails, and we need centres. At number 3, not at 1 or 2, is Ollie Lawrence. He's playing 13 at the moment for Bath and looking great, but he can fill in at 12. We know that for England. He runs big lines, but I prefer him to be at 13, but still playing really well, so he goes in at number 3, the asterisk saying he really is a 13. And then 1 and 2, these guys are genuine 12s who are in the picture. Lennox Anyanwu, number 1, Will Butt, number 2. Butt's been moved to the wing recently, which I don't really like. Doesn't look as good there. But at 12, he looks big, he looks strong, he looks quick, he looks creative. What's more to like? He's there, and Anyanwu has been very consistent as the new replacement, if you like, for Esther Hazen He stepped up, he said, I am the man, making the breaks, scoring the tries, looking powerful. He is number one. And like I said, fairly slim pickings in the centre at the moment for England. Some repeat names there because we could play these players at 12 or 13. Some asterisks by Northmore and Slade who are injured at the moment, but they could come back into it when they're fit. Kelly again, we've talked about him at number 5. Number 4 is Will Joseph. We haven't seen a lot of him. I don't know if it's injury, I don't know if it's preference, but he seems to have the perfect build for an outside centre. He's got size, he's got pace, he's got skill. Can he get a start, a regular start for Harlequins? That's going to be a big thing for him climbing up. Lazowski was named in the England squad. I'm not completely sold that he's the future, but he's playing really well. He's incredibly creative. He is essentially a fly half playing in the 13 channel, similar to Henry Slade. Does he have that killer pace or power? I don't think he really does. So that's why 1 and 2 are Oscar Beard number 2, Lawrence number 1. Beard, maybe that little bit more pace. Ollie Lawrence, a bit more power, but very creative, very dangerous. I think they're in top form, both of those guys. Lawrence number 1. Then onto the wing, and I think at the moment we've got a lot of contenders. So 12 who I think are in genuine contention for an England shirt. At 12 is Ollie Hassel-Collins, does some great stuff, does some dozy stuff as well. Obviously that drop ball for a try was a bad one. He's trying to recover from that. He's got a long way to climb up the list, but still could do a good job for England. We've just seen Caden Murley come back, so he's at 11, although he looked very sharp in the Harlequins game, but there's so much pace ahead of him. He's got a long way to go. I'm putting Adam Radwan at 10 because when we see him with the ball, he still is incredibly creative. He is the most dangerous player that Newcastle have, but playing for Newcastle, we don't see him a lot, although Newcastle have been trying to play more expansive, but they just don't use him enough. Can they do it a bit more? Can he climb up a bit higher? We will see. And a guy who hasn't quite come back into full form yet is Ollie Slightholme. As we see some more of him, I think his stock will rise. He may well stay in the England squad because he was there for the summer, but at the moment on form a little down, below Rich Lane of Bristol, who's been fantastic. He plays 15 as well. He's into his 30s now, but he is a real contender, I think, although there's a lot still ahead of him. Then we have the young winger for Exeter, Brown Bampo, just burst onto the scene this year for Exeter, and he is an absolute athlete. Him and Faye Wabusu are working in tandem, in tight, out wide, chasing kicks. They look the real deal, 2 young wingers. Then big Tom Roebuck is at 6. I'm not sure he's hit top form yet, but he's starting to get there. He's big, he's strong, he's a good finisher, he's good in the air. Is he quite as quick as some of the others? At number 5 is Tommy Freeman. He's a fantastic all-rounder. Maybe not hit quite top form yet, but he's getting there. Hit a sick line to score right at the end for Northampton in a losing cause. But he's really good in every single area. A real all-rounder, maybe could fill in at 13 as well. 4th is Christian Wade, who's just got injured recently, which is a shame. We've seen a hat-trick already. We've seen loads of good tries. He's got the feet. He's got the speed. Maybe not quite as much, dare I say, as Gabriel Ibatoy, who's completely on fire, especially in attack. We've seen some decent defence, but then a couple of wobbly tackles, some decent kicking, then a couple of wobbly kicks. It is his skills, his defence, that is the question, but goodness me, he is on fire. The way he stands up players and goes round them, like in the last round, is like no one else, to be honest. Maybe apart from the top 2, Tobias Elliott. Goodness me, he has been starting like a train for Saracens, and I think he looks international. He screams international. He's got absolute top-end pace. He's got a step. He's fairly big. He's got a high ball game. He's got some rugby acumen. You can see he's trying to do the right things. I think he's got a massive future. Number 2, just behind Emmanuel Faye-Wabusu, because he is always in the game. In and around the ruck, pick and go. His power fend in the last game was amazing, fending off 2 for a try. He is an absolute game breaker. Maybe not quite as quick in a long distance race than some of the others, but for power, for pace, in and around that ruck, he is the man. So Faye-Wabusu holding on to number 1 spot. And I also think we've got plenty of contenders for fullback. Rich Lane there at 10, really good player, but so many good ones ahead of him. Josh Hodge, I'm hoping he comes through at some point. The Exeter fullback has got the lot, it looks like. Maybe needs a bit more bulk potentially, but he's got the kick, he's got the pace. Is he consistent enough? not quite. Has he really exploded into this season? Not quite with the amazing breaks I'm hoping he makes. He will rise, I think. Above him is still Marcus Smith. We saw him at 15 once for Harlequins. We've seen him at 15 for England, and he can do a great job there counter-attacking. He's one of the best. Maybe not defensively the man, but he's improving the areas of his game if he's called on at 15. And as you know, if you watch my reviews of the Premiership, I've been so impressed with number 7 George Barton. He's quick, he's strong, he's got those fly half skills. It looks like he's moved to 15 fairly permanently, although quite like to see him at 10 as well. But he's an amazing kicker. He is probably the best kicker I've seen from fullback. Josh Hodge is pretty close, but those two unbelievable kickers. Carpenter's starting to come into form. He's that bit smaller. He's got a good all-round game, very good counter-attacker. Because he's a bit smaller, he needs to be express pace. Has he quite got it? Not sure, to be honest. Not completely sure, to be honest, but we'll watch him carefully. Number 5, Elliot Daly. Super consistent, great skills, fantastic passing, good kicking. He is not as quick as he used to be, nowhere near, so that brings him down a little bit, but you know what you get with Elliot Daly, a consummate professional. And I think just nudging above him from the last round was Tom de Glanville. His interception try, I think, proved to me that he does have the pace now. He was a little bit slower, a little bit more wispy in the last season. He's definitely bulked up, got some more power, and that puts him in international contention because he's got all the skills. He is a really silky player. Similar to Max Malins. Malins, we know, isn't top-end power or pace, but he's an amazing player. Scoring for fun at the moment for Bristol, and what a side to play for if you want to score tries, Bristol. And then the top 2, Freddie Stewart and then George Fullback. They went head-to-head in the last round. Stewart had a really good game in that last round, showed his power and how he can insert himself straight and hard into the line, and it would be nice to see him have a little run at 12 at some points in a game if he starts at 15, but just a different player to George Fullback, who is much more nippy, much more elusive. If you want a counter-attacking 15, it's more someone like Fullback, more someone like Marcus Smith, so it's kind of what you go for, but they're both on form. Fullback just tipping it at the moment. So that means we've got our England backline on form. Of course, if we were picking properly, we'd take other factors into account, obviously experience, past performance. But on form, at 9, we'd have Harry Randall. Then outside him is Marcus Smith. Inside centre, Lennox Anyanwu. Outside centre, Ollie Lawrence. The 2 wingers would be Emmanuel Faye-Wabusu and Tobias Elliott. And at fullback, George Fullback. Would you like to see that backline? I definitely would. The whole team, if you watch the first video when I pick the forwards, that will give you the whole team. But if you like this sort of thing, please like, please subscribe. That would be great. And I'll catch you next time.